What if I told you there is a river on Earth so hot that it can reach temperatures close to boiling? And that's not even the strangest part. What if I told you an entire continent is hiding beneath the Pacific Ocean? Or that there's a place where you can stand in 4 different US states at the same time? Earth is full of places that sound impossible, but they're real. And today, we're going to explore 50 of them. Some are mysterious, some are beautiful, and some are almost impossible to believe. So let's begin. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, there's a river unlike anything you've ever seen. It's called the Shunay-Tempishka, and its water can become incredibly hot. In some areas, temperatures can approach 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The river stretches for miles through the jungle. And the strangest part? There isn't an active volcano nearby. Instead, heat from deep beneath Earth's surface is believed to warm the water. For years, people thought stories about this river were nothing more than legend, until scientists investigated it and discovered something extraordinary. But now, let's go somewhere even bigger. Because beneath the Pacific Ocean, there's an almost completely hidden continent. It's called Zealandia, and it's enormous. Around 94% of it is underwater. Only small parts, including New Zealand and New Caledonia, rise above the ocean. Scientists began formally recognizing Zealandia as a continent in the late 2010s. It separated from ancient land masses millions of years ago and gradually sank beneath the sea. So the next time you look across the Pacific, remember, you could be looking at the surface of a hidden continent. Now here's something even stranger. Imagine standing in one spot and being in 4 states at once. At the Four Corners Monument in the United States, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah meet. One small point. For states, it's one of the most unusual locations in America. And it gets even crazier. Because thousands of miles away, nature is putting on one of the greatest light shows on Earth. Near Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela, the sky can explode with lightning. This phenomenon is known as Catatumbo lightning. Storms can appear hundreds of nights each year. Sometimes, the sky flashes again and again, turning the darkness into a natural fireworks display. For centuries, these storms were even useful to sailors navigating the region. But what comes next? Sounds like a geography puzzle. Imagine an island. Inside a lake. On an island. Inside another lake. On a much larger island. It sounds impossible, but it exists in the Philippines. The unusual landscape around Taal Volcano creates this incredible nesting pattern. It's almost as if nature built a giant Russian doll, but with islands and lakes. Now, let's travel to Alaska. There's a town where many people live. Inside one building. Welcome to Whittier. A large 14-story building contains homes and many essential services. There's a school, a store, a post office, a church, and medical facilities. For residents, much of daily life can happen without leaving the building, especially when winter arrives and Alaska becomes brutally cold. But here's a fact that puts size into perspective. Russia is so enormous. It's larger than Pluto's entire surface area. Think about that. An entire country, bigger than a dwarf planet. Russia stretches across 11 time zones, from Europe deep into Asia. Its size is almost impossible to imagine. And now, let's visit a place where you can float without even trying. The Dead Sea isn't actually a sea. It's a highly salty lake. Its water is so dense that people can float remarkably easily. The salt concentration is many times higher than ordinary seawater. Almost nothing can survive in such extreme conditions. And the lake sits at one of the lowest exposed land elevations on Earth. But there's another country where the problem is almost the opposite. The Maldives is incredibly flat. Its highest natural point is only around 2.4 meters above sea level. That's less than 8 feet. Imagine an entire country where the highest natural ground is barely taller than a house. This incredible geography also makes the Maldives extremely vulnerable to rising sea levels. Now, look beneath the Black Sea, because something strange is moving down there. Scientists have detected a massive underwater current that behaves surprisingly like a river. Dense, salty water flows beneath less dense water, creating channels and features resembling riverbanks. If it were on land, it would look like an enormous river flowing across the landscape. And Earth has another moving giant, Mount Everest. The world's highest mountain isn't frozen in time. The Indian tectonic plate continues pushing against the Eurasian plate. That movement constantly reshapes the Himalayas. Everest can rise by a few millimeters in some years. So the highest mountain on Earth is still being built. But here's something even harder to imagine. The Sahara Desert wasn't always a desert. Thousands of years ago, large parts of the Sahara were green. There were lakes, rivers, grasslands, and abundant wildlife. This period is known as the African humid period. Then Earth's climate changed. The landscape slowly transformed, and the green Sahara became the enormous desert we know today. Now let's go somewhere where snakes don't naturally live. Antarctica. It's the only continent completely free of native snakes. The reason? Extreme cold. Temperatures can fall far below freezing, making the environment impossible for most reptiles. Antarctica is one of the harshest places on Earth. But beneath the surface of another continent, there's a lake holding an astonishing amount of fresh water. Lake Baikal in Russia. It's the deepest freshwater lake on Earth, reaching more than 1,600 meters deep. And it's incredibly ancient. Its age is measured in tens of millions of years. The lake also contains thousands of species, many of them found nowhere else. Now, here's a geography joke created by nature. Greenland. The name sounds warm, green, welcoming, but most of Greenland is covered by ice. Meanwhile, Iceland has plenty of green landscapes. The names seem almost backwards. And there's a fascinating story behind Greenland's name, one connected to the Viking explorer Eric the Red. Now, let's cross a continent without leaving a city. Istanbul. This extraordinary city sits across Europe and Asia. The Bosphorus Strait divides the two sides. People cross between continents every day, using bridges, ferries, and tunnels. Imagine having breakfast in Europe and lunch in Asia without leaving your city. Now here's a town that takes small-town life to another level. Monowai, Nebraska. At one point, the town had only one resident, Elsie Eiler. She served as mayor, managed the local business, and essentially kept the town functioning. One person, running an entire town. And here's another size comparison. Australia is wider than the moon's diameter. Australia stretches roughly 4,000 kilometers from east to west. The moon's diameter is about 3,474 kilometers. So across its width, Australia is actually wider than the moon. Now imagine living somewhere where the sun doesn't set for weeks. That's life in Svalbard, Norway. During summer, the sun stays above the horizon. No sunset, no true darkness. Then winter brings the opposite. Long periods without sunlight. It's one of the most extreme day and night cycles on Earth. And here's another remarkable fact. Africa is the only continent that lies in all four hemispheres. North, south, east, and west. The equator crosses Africa. So does the prime meridian, making Africa uniquely positioned across the globe. Now, here's a population comparison that may surprise you. California has a population close to that of Canada. One is a single U.S. state. The other is an enormous country. Yet their populations are surprisingly similar. And speaking of things hidden beneath the surface, Russia is home to one of the deepest holes ever drilled. The Kola Super Deep Borehole. It reaches more than 12 kilometers into Earth's crust. That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. But temperatures deep underground became so extreme that drilling eventually had to stop. And now, here's something that may surprise you about Egypt. Sudan has more pyramids. The ancient kingdom of Kush built hundreds of pyramidal structures. They may not be as famous as the pyramids of Giza, but they are an incredible part of African history. And even stranger, gravity itself isn't exactly the same everywhere. Around Canada's Hudson Bay, scientists have detected an unusual gravity anomaly. The region was once covered by massive ice sheets. As the ice disappeared, Earth's crust slowly began rising again. That movement helped create subtle differences in gravity. Even satellites can detect them. Now let's look at one of Earth's greatest living structures, the Great Barrier Reef. It stretches for more than 2,000 kilometers along Australia's coast. It's home to thousands of marine species and is the largest coral reef system on Earth. From space, parts of it can be seen. But this giant ecosystem is also under serious environmental pressure. Now, here's something strange about China. The country is enormous enough to span several geographical time zones. But officially, the entire country uses just one, China Standard Time. That means sunrise can happen at dramatically different clock times depending on where you are. And speaking of unusual national features, Nepal has the only national flag in the world that isn't rectangular. Instead, it's made from two connected triangular shapes. Its design is instantly recognizable and completely different from almost every other flag on Earth. Now think about where most humans live. The vast majority of the world's population lives north of the equator. Why? Because the northern hemisphere contains much more land, and many regions have climates that have supported large populations for thousands of years. But now, let's travel to Bolivia, because there, the ground can disappear. Not literally, but it can look like it does. Sala de Uyuni is the world's largest salt flat. During the rainy season, a thin layer of water covers the surface, and suddenly, the entire landscape becomes a giant mirror. The sky reflects across the ground, and the horizon almost disappears. It's one of the most surreal landscapes on Earth. Now, what if I told you the Amazon isn't the world's largest forest? The answer is the taiga. This enormous boreal forest stretches across Russia, Canada, and Scandinavia. It covers millions of square kilometers and plays an important role in Earth's climate system. But here's a serious warning. The Maldives, one of the world's lowest-lying nations, faces major risks from rising sea levels. Its geography makes even small changes in ocean levels important, and climate change could have enormous consequences for its future. Now, look at Mauritius. From above, you may see what looks like an underwater waterfall, but it's an illusion. Sand and sediment move along underwater slopes, creating the appearance of water falling into a giant abyss. It looks impossible, but the ocean floor is simply playing tricks on your eyes. Now let's travel to Siberia, because there is a place where temperatures can fall below -60 degrees Celsius. Oymyakon. It's considered one of the coldest permanently inhabited places on Earth. Life there requires extraordinary adaptation. Vehicles, buildings, food, even simple daily routines must account for the extreme cold. Now, here's another mystery that scientists finally solved. In Death Valley, rocks appear to move across the desert floor by themselves. They leave long trails behind them. For years, nobody could explain it. Then researchers discovered the answer. Thin sheets of ice can form around the rocks. When strong winds arrive, the ice and rocks move together across the wet surface. A mystery solved by a very unusual combination of ice and wind. But Antarctica has something even stranger. Bloodfalls. Red-colored water flows from Taylor Glacier. It looks almost like blood pouring from the ice. But the explanation is scientific. Iron-rich water reacts with oxygen, creating the dramatic red color. It looks alien, but it comes from Earth's own chemistry. Now, let's visit one of the world's hottest lakes, Dominica's boiling lake. The water is heated by volcanic activity beneath the surface. Temperatures can approach 90 degrees Celsius near parts of the lake. Steam rises constantly, and the water can bubble violently. It's one of the clearest reminders that Earth's interior is still active. Now, look toward Hong Kong. Mountains surround the city. Water limits available land. So the city grew upward, and upward, and upward. The result is one of the most dramatic skylines on Earth, filled with hundreds of skyscrapers. Now, imagine drawing a perfectly straight line through a forest. That's what happens along parts of the Sweden-Norway border. A cleared strip cuts through the wilderness, marking the international boundary. From above, it looks almost like someone drew a line across the forest. Now, let's travel to Lake Titicaca, because some people there live on islands that actually float. The Uros people have built islands from bundles of Tatora reeds. The reeds must constantly be repaired and replaced. But for generations, these floating islands have supported an entire way of life. Now, imagine a beach that glows at night. In certain places around the world, bioluminescent organisms can create brilliant blue flashes in the water. Move your hand through the waves, and tiny points of light can appear. Walk across the shore, and your footsteps may seem to sparkle. It looks like the stars have fallen into the ocean. Now, let's go somewhere that looks like the entrance to another world. In Turkmenistan, there's a huge burning crater known as the Darvaza gas crater. It's often called the door to hell. The crater began burning after a drilling accident in the 1970s. Gas escaped from the ground and was ignited. The flames continued for decades. A human-made accident turned into one of the world's strangest landmarks. Now, look toward Indonesia. Mount Kelimutu has 3 crater lakes, and their colors can change: blue, green, dark, even reddish shades. The changes are connected to volcanic gases and minerals within the water. 3 lakes, 3 different chemical environments, and a landscape that can look completely different over time. Now, prepare to go underground. Vietnam is home to Sun Dun Cave. It's so enormous. It has its own underground landscapes. There are rivers, vegetation, huge chambers, and rock formations that seem almost impossible in scale. The cave is so large that imagining its true size is difficult. Now, here's another optical illusion. At Magnetic Hill in Canada, cars can appear to roll uphill, but there's no supernatural force. The surrounding landscape creates an optical illusion. What looks like an uphill slope is actually downhill. Your eyes simply convince your brain otherwise. Now, look at the Philippines. Thousands of rounded hills cover the landscape of Bohol. During the dry season, their grass turns brown, and the hills begin to look like giant chocolate drops. That's why they're called the Chocolate Hills. Their unusual shape was created by geological processes over enormous periods of time. Now, listen carefully, because some deserts can actually sing. Certain sand dunes produce a deep humming or booming sound when sand slides down their slopes. The sound can travel surprisingly far. It sounds almost like a musical instrument hidden in the desert. And beneath Kentucky, there's an underground world even larger than most people realize. Mammoth Cave. It's the longest known cave system on Earth. Hundreds of kilometers of passages have been mapped, and exploration continues. New sections can still be discovered, meaning the underground map of Earth isn't finished yet. Now, let's return to the ocean. At Ireland's cliffs of Moher, powerful Atlantic winds can sometimes blow falling water upward. The water doesn't actually reverse gravity. The wind is simply strong enough to push the spray back toward the cliff. From a distance, it looks like a waterfall flowing into the sky. And finally, we arrive at another place where nature appears to break the rules. The Faroe Islands. During powerful coastal storms, winds can push waterfall spray upward. Water that should be falling is thrown back into the air. It creates a breathtaking scene, as if gravity itself has been switched off. And after traveling through all 50 of these incredible places, one thing becomes clear. Earth is much stranger than we imagine. There are hidden continents, boiling rivers, floating islands, glowing beaches, singing sand dunes, underground worlds, and landscapes that seem to defy gravity. The most amazing part? These aren't science fiction stories. They're real. Our planet has spent billions of years creating places that are more surprising than anything we could invent. So, which fact surprised you the most? Was it the boiling river, the hidden continent, the giant mirror in Bolivia, or the waterfalls that seem to flow upward? Tell me in the comments. And if this journey around Earth surprised you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because we've only scratched the surface. There are still countless mysteries, strange places, and incredible natural wonders waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep exploring.